When you see someone on Instagram who is your age but rich, has an impressive partner, and is in great shape, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? It's probably this: what am I even doing with my life? Let me be very honest with you. This kind of comparison is making you feel inferior and is completely destroying your self-esteem. In this video, you will first understand why your brain does this in the first place. Then you'll learn what damage it causes to your mental health and life. And finally, you'll learn 7 practical techniques to get rid of it. First of all, this comparison behavior is not new. It's an ancient survival behavior that goes back to early humans. Back then, people constantly had to evaluate their position in the tribe because they needed to know whether they had access to food and resources compared to others, and what their chances were of finding a partner. Because of that, the human brain gradually learned to constantly compare itself to others. Humans naturally want to understand how well they are doing. When there is a clear metric, it's easy. For example, a runner checks a stopwatch to evaluate performance. The number is clear and there's no debate, but the problem starts when there is no clear standard. For example, am I successful or not? Am I happy or not? Am I attractive or not? Do I have enough money or not? For these questions, there is no exact number or measurement, so the mind switches to another method: comparison with others. Instead of measuring itself against a fixed standard, it compares itself with people around it. This is what we recognize today in thoughts like, "I don't know what I'm even doing with my life," or "look at how far others have come." And the brain usually chooses people who are closest to us in age, gender, and life situation as comparison references. For example, a university student is less likely to compare themselves to a billionaire and more likely to compare themselves to classmates or peers from school. However, when the gap between us and someone is too large, the brain often removes that person from the comparison group. That's why on Instagram we compare ourselves more with people our own age rather than someone twice our age. In general, there are 2 types of social comparison. The first one is the one that hurts us more: upward comparison. Here, we compare ourselves to someone who is more successful, richer, better looking, or more skilled. For example, a friend with a higher income, someone with a better physique, or a classmate who reached their goals earlier. The second one is downward comparison, which usually makes us feel better. Here, we compare ourselves to someone who is in a more difficult or weaker situation. For example, someone with a lower income or someone who is behind us in life. Many people use this type of comparison to temporarily feel better. But the story doesn't end here, because the mind has 2 filters that can completely change the outcome. The first filter is when you feel a large gap between you and the other person. For example, they're way ahead of me. I will never reach that level. I'm nowhere near them. In this case, the mind focuses on differences. If it's upward comparison, it can lead to feelings of inferiority, depression, hopelessness, jealousy, and reduced self-confidence. If it's downward comparison, it can lead to superiority, false pride, and even disrespect toward others. The second filter is when the mind focuses on similarities instead of differences. For example, they are just a normal person. I can also follow that path. In this case, other people's success becomes inspiration instead of threat, and it helps you believe that success is possible for you too. But an important question is, why does your friend's success hurt you more than a stranger's success? There are 2 main reasons. First is closeness. The closer someone is to you, the stronger the comparison becomes. For example, a close friend or former classmate affects you more than a stranger. Second is relevance to your identity. Imagine the most important thing in your life is opening a cafe. If your friend becomes very successful in that field, you will likely feel more discomfort. But if that same friend becomes a successful doctor and you have no interest in medicine, it probably won't affect you much, because that success is not connected to your identity. Now let's look at the damage these social comparisons cause. The first damage is destruction of self-esteem. When you constantly compare yourself to people your age, your focus shifts from "what value do I have" to "how valuable am I compared to others." This small shift has a huge impact. Gradually, you start feeling that your value depends on appearance, income, success, or approval from others. As a result, self-confidence drops significantly, and you become overly dependent on other people's opinions. Instead of focusing on your own work, you become afraid that someone else might do something impressive and make you feel worthless. The second second damage is body image issues and distorted perception of your body. For example, you see someone at a wedding with a great body and immediately look at yourself in the mirror thinking negatively about your own appearance. This creates feelings of inadequacy and can lead to disorders such as anorexia or binge eating. The third damage is depression and anxiety. Upward comparison, especially when combined with the feeling of being behind in life, increases depression and anxiety. For example, seeing someone buy a car may make you feel ashamed, blame yourself, or feel constantly behind, leading to ongoing anxiety. When repeated, this becomes rumination. Your mind repeatedly goes over painful thoughts without finding a solution. The fourth damage affects your relationships. When your mind is constantly ranking people, friends, coworkers, and even close ones start turning into competitors. Someone who used to be your friend can become a rival after becoming successful, and your relationship becomes colder and more competitive, increasing loneliness and emotional distance. Now let's examine where these comparisons come from. Many people think comparison comes only from social media, but in reality, it has multiple layers. First is the brain. When you compare your social status with others, certain brain areas become active. Interestingly, the brain processes social status similarly to real rewards. So for the brain, feeling ahead of others can be experienced like receiving a reward. On the other hand, feeling behind others activates regions associated with pain and discomfort. Simply put, falling behind others can feel like real psychological pain. Second is family. Family is usually the first environment where comparison starts. Many of us heard things like, "Why aren't you like your sister? Look how hard your brother studies. Look at your cousin. Your friend succeeded. Why didn't you?" These sentences slowly shape the mind and turn others into benchmarks. From childhood, this creates a need for validation and approval. Third is the workplace. Here, you don't usually compare yourself with CEOs, but with people at your level or slightly above you. You constantly think, am I falling behind? Why did they get promoted? Why do they earn more? Am I good enough? Fourth and biggest source today is social media. Platforms are designed in a way that constantly pushes comparison. The problem is that in real life, you don't see everything, only the highlights. You only see vacations, success, relationships, and achievements. You don't see failures, stress, arguments, or breakdowns. So you end up comparing your behind-the-scenes life with someone else's highlight reel. Now, how do we get rid of this? We cannot completely eliminate comparison because it is part of the brain's function. The goal is to control it using techniques. Stop, shift, switch technique. When you suddenly get stuck in comparison, stop and realize what is happening. I am comparing again. Change your situation. Put the phone down, stand up, walk, drink water. Shift attention to reality. Notice sounds around you, your breathing, or the texture of the chair you're sitting on. Challenge the inner voice. A big part of comparison comes from an internal voice that says, you should be more successful. You should be like them. Challenge it by asking, who decided I should already be there? Is everyone's path the same? Don't compare your behind the scenes with others' highlights. Instead, treat others' success as motivation. Even leaving positive comments can shift your mindset. Set boundaries for social media. The issue is not only the content, but also usage time. Limit your exposure so your brain can process information calmly. Practice gratitude. Be grateful for what you already have, even small things. This reduces comparison pressure. Compare yourself with your past self. Instead of asking, where am I compared to others? Ask, am I better than 5 months ago financially, mentally, or personally? Turn jealousy into a compass. Jealousy is not always negative. It can show what you truly want. Ask, what exactly about their success matters to me? It might be freedom, income, creativity, or independence. Jealousy can then become a signal that guides your direction. If you reached this point, leave a like and share your thoughts about the video in the comments.